going with the flow of the cycle of friendships. And the cycle of friendships may look different in different seasons of our actual physical lives. And it may be different seasons within the friendship. Just people grow and change, and life gets different. And we need to make choices sometimes that inevitably hurt somebody else or put you in a position to be feeling a lot of emotion around it. And remember that emotion is just a feeling, it's going to pass.
Welcome to Amy Liz Harrison's podcast, Eternally Amy, a mum of 8's journey from jail to joy, a Gen Xer who overcame her struggle with alcohol to become a best-selling author and mental health advocate. She shares stories of hope and offers ideas for others struggling with mental health challenges. One thing is for sure, you'll leave with something to chew on. And now, here's your host, Amy Liz Harrison.
Greetings, compadres. Welcome back to Eternally Amy. And today I want to talk about friendship. And, this is vulnerable for sure for me. I can talk all day about getting sober, about the crazy shenanigans I did while I was drinking. But friendships are personal, right? Like really personal. And I've been blessed in my life to have some amazing ones. And, I have not been somebody who still has like kindergarten besties. That just wasn't really how things shook out for me. I grew up in California, as you know. I was born in LA and I was raised in the Bay Area, but then I went back to LA. And I went to college there and lived there for 4 years and just have had the benefit of meeting some amazing people along the way. And there are people who we meet for a time, and then some of those people are able to pick up where we left off, right? And not care that we haven't been in touch maybe as much as we would have liked. Life, of course, goes on, right? And then there are other people who are like stickers. They like stay. And it's awesome. And I've had both in my life. I've also had the experience of a childhood friend who completely told me that they forgave me for me basically being a jerk when we were little. I'm going to call it, I didn't make the best decisions. And I told her that, like, I owned this. I wrote her an amends letter. I did all this stuff. She said she forgave me. And then turns out later in life, she hadn't forgiven me and sort of said that in not so many words. And, for whatever reason, she sort of took that forgiveness back. And you know what? That is okay. Like that happens. People are in different places. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, well, she should have just totally stood by her word and forgiven me and all this crap. No, I don't know what she's going through in her life. I have no idea. And I really don't know the fallout and the ramifications of what happened as a result to how I treated her, because we were really close when we were very young. And then basically, I became a jerk because somebody new moved into the neighborhood. I talk about this in one of my books, but someone new came into the neighborhood and I started hanging out with her. And essentially, I ditched the first friend. It is like the worst, especially at that age. I know this, and I owned it. But as I said, sometimes we just can't hang. Sometimes we think we're over something and we're not. We're just not. Or we try to get over something and maybe we haven't done the inner work around it. Whatever it is, sometimes some relationships can't be mended or can't be mended today, right? So I wanted to talk about friendship and specifically the tale of two friendships, because this is really recent. The example I just gave was kind of it's older. It's like 5 or 6 years older when basically it was like, I forgive you. No, I don't. JK. Just kidding. That was from a little bit back. And so today, what I want to talk about is going with the flow of the cycle of friendships. And the cycle of friendships may look different in different seasons of our actual physical lives. And it may be different seasons within the friendship. Just people grow and change, and life gets different. And we need to make choices sometimes that inevitably hurt somebody else or put you in a position to be feeling a lot of emotion around it. And remember that emotion is just a feeling, it's going to pass. So, a tale of two friendships. The first one that I want to talk about is a dear, dear friend of mine, just a dear friend. If I'm going to label it, I'll call her my bestie. And I do use that term with like a lot of people, but really, truly. And this is someone who I got sober with. And well, actually, I used to drink with. So she knows all my deepest, darkest secrets, right? And she is someone who has been there for me when the chips were down. And I mean, ridiculous amounts of time. And I don't know why. I certainly haven't done anything to earn it. I haven't done anything or been anyone special that would have caused her to just interweave herself into my life over these many years. Okay. And I want to talk about the fact that she moved recently, like out of the area. And when she told me she was thinking about moving, so this is like a number of months back, I remember thinking on that day, gosh, that would really stink. Like, I kind of hope she really doesn't. But she did. And how dare she? I'm just totally kidding. But what happened was after she told me, yes, it's official. She sent me a picture of the house that they bought. I sat with it and I just kind of thought, I'm not going to process this right now because she's not gone yet. And sometimes if I invite processing and challenge into my life that I don't need to deal with today, it kind of complicates things a little bit because it complicates my today about something that is not happening today. So in a way, I'm future tripping. And that's what happened to me on that day where she told me that she was moving. I just thought, this is a big deal, and I'm going to process this closer to the time. My brain, of course, cognitively knew that she was moving, but my spirit knew, my body knew that I couldn't deal with it that day. And God, my higher power, I choose to call God, God gives me grace and strength for the things that I swear to God I can't do myself. I don't have it in me. And so on that day, God helped me to compartmentalize. And, I just kind of put it out of my head until it got closer. About 2 days before she was due to actually leave the state, okay, I reached out to her and I said, okay, I want to come see you. And both of us had kind of done the same thing. Now that I'm looking back on it, we both kind of avoided seeing each other until the last second. And I think partially the reason why that was because we just didn't want to say goodbye, right? And so once someone's leaving, everything becomes the last, right? Oh, this is the last time we'll ever do blah 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 together in its current capacity, right? The way it is now, with her living here and me living here, the way it is now. And so to kind of avoid the long, drawn out goodbye, I mean, there was no party, nothing like that, right? We just kind of waited until the last second. And then I reached out and I did not want to. In fact, I was kind of hoping that she would kind of go lightly into the night and then, decide she hated it and would come right back. If I'm being totally honest, like that's what I would have wanted, right? But it didn't happen that way. I said to myself, all right, if you don't reach out to her and get some balls and say goodbye, you're going to regret it. You just will. And so I got together with her and we met up the day before she flew. And it was really kind of funny because I went over to her parents' house and I had been there many times before, but this is like somebody my age. She's actually older than me, but, has kids, married and all this. And then she's at her parents' house because they don't have a house anymore because they sold it, right? So her house was gone. Well, it wasn't gone. I'll get there. But I get to her parents' house. She always drives when we hang out together. So immediately I pull in the driveway, park, get out, go to the passenger side. She gets in the driver's side. This is just like our thing, right? And usually she'll pick me up, but her car is gone now, right? So we are driving through the neighborhood of her parents' house. Now, this is someone who has lived a long time in the area, right? So she goes, hey, she goes, let me drive you by my very first house I ever lived in when we moved here. And I'm like, great, that'll be fun to see. So we pull into this cul-de-sac, like 2 blocks over. And she goes, there it is. There's my house. And I look at the house number. And this is going to maybe not be that impactful for you if you're listening or watching, but this was crazy huge for me. This is my dear bestie, right? Like, I knew this person inside and out, all the stories, all the history. I look at the house number, and the house number is the same house number as the house I grew up in Mountain View, California. And I was just like, I could barely speak for a second. I was like, how on earth did we never discuss this? Because my house number is like my password for a bunch of stuff. My brother and I still call my house by the house number, our house where we grew up, right? We just think it's a big funny thing for some reason. And she had the exact same house number. What? It was crazy. It was amazing. Like I started crying right then. And I was just like, okay, I'm a cheese ball. I'm sorry. But, she was just like dumbfounded as well. So I get it together and we proceed to just have the best morning doing all the old shit, just drove around, went up to her house, got something out of the garage. I walked into her house. I mean, it was vacant, right? Nothing on the floor, nothing, no boxes, nothing. Just, I have never even seen it like that, right? And that was sad. That was really weird. And I just felt this pain like, oh, yeah, this is the last, oh my God, this is the last time we're going to stand in your house, and we had met at church. So we're driving by the church after that. And we're like, oh my God, that's where we met. And, oh my God, that's where so and so's house where we played Bunko and we were eating sugar cookies and everybody else was just hammered. And, then like there's the bar where we were hammered and Andrew, my husband, had to come pick us up and he was so mad. So we're laughing about all this stuff, right? And it was so healing, so cathartic. It provided so much closure. And I was really struck by this feeling like, you know what? I am so bummed out. This chapter of our friendship is over. But she's one of those people. She just sticks around. She's like, Um, have you ever had one of those like dartboard things that doesn't have actual darts on it, but it has those little balls that are like rolled up in Velcro, and then the Velcro ball, when you throw it, it sticks to a dartboard made of Velcro or whatever that receiving product is that Velcro sticks to? I don't know what it's called, but I think you know what I'm talking about. And then inevitably you put on a sweatshirt like 2 days later and boom, there's that Velcro ball and it somehow like ended up on your sweatshirt and you're like, why is this everywhere? These balls are everywhere, right? So she's just like that. She just sticks around, and that doesn't change. Like, because our friendship has the capacity to withstand the many changes that happen in our lives. The friendship has the strength to withstand all of that turmoil, the drinking, the getting sober, and now an out of state move. And so I dropped her back off. We said goodbye. And I bawled like a baby the whole way home. Bawled. Then I get home and I text her and I said, okay, I bawled like a baby all the way home. And I just was laughing because I was so glad that I, against my will, kind of made myself do what I didn't want to do, which was go and get that closure and say goodbye. And since she's moved, of course, we've been in touch and laughing and sending joke memes and being totally inappropriate like a bunch of junior hires like we usually are. It is like nothing has changed in terms of, we didn't really see each other very often in the last probably maybe even close to a decade of our friendship when she was living here because she was doing some other things. She was going to school and stuff. I was really involved. I mean, I had now 4 other kids. And so I was doing that and school and recovery. And, so we were already kind of used to sort of the long distance thing. It's just that I knew it was an option for her to just come pick me up, you know, like Matt Damon and Ben Affleck in Good Will Hunting. And I will say on that note, there is a scene in Good Will Hunting that just always reminds me of my friend. Speaking of Good Will Hunting, and, you know, Ben Affleck says to Matt Damon toward the end of the movie, the best day of my life would be, I'm paraphrasing, right? If I rolled by your house and I came to pick you up and you weren't there, that would be the best day of my life. And he says that because Matt, of course, was totally afraid. Like Will was terrified to actually branch out of South Boston and go and make something of his brain, this unique, incredible ability to learn and do these really super difficult, crazy math equations that he could do, right? Remember at the beginning, he's doing the math equation that nobody could do on the board and blah, blah, blah. And so I always told her, my friend, oh my gosh, it's like you were Ben Affleck when I was still drinking because she got sober 6 months before I did. And you would come to pick me up and probably wondered, geez, is today going to be the day that she surrenders, that she quits drinking? Is today going to be the day? And so we have special bonds that withstand time and circumstance. And not every friendship is like that. And that's okay. So the tale of the second friendship, and this is hot off the press. This is fresh. This is like last week. Okay. The tale of the second friendship is someone I met early on in sobriety. I mean, just a kick in the pants, good time girl. I mean, we just instantly gelled. Once I finally got her to kind of open up to me, she's kind of standoffish a little bit at the beginning. But what I learned was that was not about me at all. That was her just being uncomfortable with her newfound sobriety. And also, women sometimes in the program, it's like you go through this weird thing where you're like, I don't know who I can trust. What is happening? Who am I going to be vulnerable with? But anyway, we got there pretty quick. And she grew into just a ride or die. Just really someone who, just loved me. We had nothing in common. She worked full time. I didn't have a job outside the home. I have 8 kids. I didn't have that many at the time. She doesn't have them, like just kind of this, just a difference in lifestyle. And it didn't matter because what I've learned in 12-step programs is like, none of that matters. It's spirit to spirit, right? It's do our spirits connect? We had some similar backgrounds. We were both 80s and 90s babies in the church. Woo! evangelicals. So we had that, and we'd always be laughing about how, our entire lives would end up on the prayer chain, because we were such disappointments and, made this choice and that choice. And oh gosh, we were just these wayward children. And I say that sarcastically because we totally weren't wayward, but just sometimes, in comparison to perhaps different choices that we could have made, I think it led to, us not having fabulous reputations or, maybe some parental disapproval. I don't know. Anyway, so we had similar backgrounds. But again, I mean, we didn't know each other back then. I was in California, she was in Washington, growing up, good times. So we connected, we were really close for the majority of my sobriety to date. Post-COVID, I will say, I feel as if a lot of friendships got really shaken up. A lot of really close friendships that I had. And I don't feel like that is anything that has to do with me in terms of, nobody was cutting me off or like shunning me or anything like that. But anybody who I used to have like coffees on a regular basis with or whatever could totally say the same thing about me, could totally be like, oh, well, she doesn't really reach out to me anymore. Fair and true. I really have become more of a homebody than I've ever been. And COVID exacerbated that and allowed it at the same time. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying it's changed, right? And so, a lot of life happens and a lot of stuff goes on. And sometimes, you realize, oh my gosh, it's been like 9 months since I've seen that person or, hung out with somebody who we really have a connection. And I really, gosh, I got to make that like a priority and then start reaching out and start trying to connect with that person. And then that person, kind of can't do it or has moved on to other friends. Or in my case, I was kind of wondering because we were associated with these other like subgroups, right? So this is friend number 2, right? In a tale of two friendships. This is that friend number 2, the one who I met in sobriety, in recovery. And we, those groups got kind of shaken up too post-COVID. So I would say the friend and I weren't hanging out as much as we were for sure. And also the friendship group that we were kind of a part of, that kind of got like a drawer was ripped out and just dumped out and just stuff went everywhere. It was kind of like people just kind of scattered, were doing their own thing, were doing Zoom meetings, whatever, not getting together basically, or forming new subgroups, which again, I mean, look, I'm not going to lie. It hurt my feelings. Nobody was asking me to join a group. I'll tell you that much. But I get it. Like that stuff happens. It happens. So about maybe 18 months ago or so, I started really laying into trying to get my friend to, and occasionally we would like go do something, right? Like occasionally, but really not at all at the rate that we used to hang, right? And so I started saying about 18 months ago, gosh, I really miss you. I know I keep asking you to do things. And I would make jokes like, I'm like trying not to be a level 5 stalker, but I really want to hang out. Just let me know when you're free. And the friend would respond with like, oh, let me check my calendar and get back to you, and wouldn't respond. And it just kind of went like that. And then, you start feeling kind of dumb, like kind of pushing myself on this person. I get the feeling that they just don't want to hang. And maybe I'm just not reading that right. And so I just kind of took my foot off the gas pedal, right? And I just kind of let it lie, let it kind of play out. Well, then over the summer, there were a couple things that happened where I sort of got wind of like different gatherings that I wasn't invited to, where this friend was an attendee, was invited, or was the facilitator. And that was a little bit crunchy because I thought, well, maybe that's not really true. Maybe I'm making it up in my head. I don't want to be upset about something that's fictional and it's not a fact, and feelings aren't facts. Just because I'm feeling FOMO or feeling left out doesn't mean I am left out, you know. And now with everybody doing like the Mel Robbins let them theory, I kind of had that like, well, okay, well, they're all hanging out without me, let them. But I didn't have like confirmation of any of that, okay? It was just something I was kind of, sort of tripping about, ruminating about. Well, like a week ago, I got confirmation that indeed my friend has been hanging out without me with this group of other friends that we both know that we had in common, that I was a part of that group. Okay. And it sucked. I'm not going to lie. Oh my gosh. It sucked. I was like, what in the actual hell? And I was mad at first. I just was not understanding. It was like, gosh, what did I do? And I had just called my friend like a week prior to finding out that, yeah, she had been kind of facilitating all these gatherings without me with other people that we knew and loved and used to hang with. And I had called her like a week before finding out. And I had said, hey, because I felt the distance, right? I'm not a total idiot. And called her and said, I just want to know, is there anything I can do to be a better friend to you? Because I know that the problem is ultimately mine. Like, she clearly, it's, not bothering her that we're not hanging out as much because she would commit to doing something with me or re-invite me to these gatherings, but she's not doing that. And so at the end of the day, my feelings are my responsibility. So I just thought to myself, maybe I'm not meeting her where she's at, And because I love and value the relationship, like I'm not going to do this with everybody, right? Like this is just, not something I generally would do. But, I thought maybe it would open a door, give her an opportunity to say, whatever, you just, I'm over you. I don't know. Not feeling your vibes anymore. I'm not sure. But I just thought maybe it would open the door to a conversation better than it would if I said, I feel like you're avoiding me and I want to talk about it. And certainly a week later, when I found out confirmation that indeed she was hanging out without me because somebody in that group told me, finally, like I knew, I finally was made aware that this, was happening. I didn't call up my friend and say, okay, I know you've been hanging out without me and how dare you, because people are free to do what they do. They're free to do what they do and what they need to do. And it's really not my business. And, old Amy, drinking Amy, would have smothered, would have cried and carried on. And been like, you don't like me anymore, and just gone berserk and bananas and been, just really upset. And I was pissed, but I'm not going to say that to her. It's not her responsibility, you know? It's just not. And so I came home and I just set aside some time and I did some grief work over it, man, because I had to. I had to do some grief work. And I did cry, just not to her. But there is a poem. It is the Ho'oponopono prayer, which is a Hawaiian practice of reconciliation and forgiveness. And it's very basic. But the prayer is, I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. And thank you. That is the prayer. So I'm doing my grief work and I'm like writing in my journal. I'm ripping out pages, burning them. And this prayer comes to mind, which I've done before. I know this prayer. I've had experience with this before. But basically, the prayer came to mind and I started praying, I love you, because love is a choice. It's not a feeling, right? I love you, even though I'm pissed about this, right? I love you because that is in alignment with who I want to be as a person and how I want to show up in the world. I don't want to be that person's like, hey, bitch, I hate you. No, no matter what, even if my expectations in this friendship are not currently met, I love you. And then I'm sorry that I had expectations. I'm sorry that I had resentments, that I currently have a resentment that I'm working through, right? As I'm writing all of this. I'm sorry that I expected you to be something or someone who you aren't anymore, or that, I'm not what you need anymore. I'm sorry, right? And please forgive me for hanging on too long and for not realizing earlier, because I sensed it, right? Like I shared that. I sensed it. I sensed that she was pulling away and distant. I said 18 months, dude. It's like 18 months ahead of time. I didn't deal with it then, and I'm not saying it was wrong, but I'm just saying I could have moved through this a little bit faster, but I just kind of was like not wanting to. I just thought it was going to kind of, right itself a little bit, maybe like a boat in the water that kind of got dumped over. Maybe it's just going to right itself again, but it didn't. So please forgive me for hanging on too long and causing you any kind of strife, that it caused you, if any, figuring out how to keep it a secret, maybe that you guys were all meeting together, whatever it was. Again, not my business, but thank you for what you added to my life, for the beauty of the friendship when it was how it was. I mean, it was just lovely. And it might not go back, and that's okay. And I am telling you guys, that is the fastest I've ever worked through grief, ever, ever. And I think that the process of doing that and the discipline of doing that, instead of just, being mad and like venting or whatever, it was just very, very healing. So, this entire episode is to encourage you to trust the process, because the tale of these two friendships, thank God I am sober now long enough that I can trust my instincts and my intuition, and I can feel when something is off, or feel when I'm avoiding something, or feel when something is over, and feel when it's really time to grieve it and let it go. Thank God for that. You know, we cannot control anybody else. We just can't. And the person who I want to be today, the person actually who I am, is not a level 5 stalker. It's like a detachment with love. And that's not even like, I'm not even saying that because I hope to be that. It's like, no, last week I actually proved to myself that I am that. At the end of the day, it was an amazing feeling to go from being mad and sad about this friendship and frustrated and why did she leave me out and kind of, ugh, I don't know what I did. And, she really didn't tell me when I asked her if there was a way I could be a better friend. None of that. I had no answers, right? Even my sponsor was like, well, why don't you call her up and just tell her you need some time with her and, just tell her how you've been feeling and just, ask her what you could do differently and how you could grow. And I'm like, no, I've done it. I've already done that. Like I did it. I asked her, how can I be a better friend to you? How can I be one? And there really wasn't an answer given that was like well, yeah, you suck at this, or you know, I'm not into it. Whatever. I'm not going to go back as a level 5 stalker, recovering level 5 stalker, right? I'm not going to go back and try and push, because that's what old Amy would have done, is like try and push, be demanding, demand answers. And it was like, I just let it go. I like literally just prayed that prayer over the situation, wrote stuff, burned stuff, talked to a couple of trusted friends in the program, in the 12-step program that I belong to. And both of these friends have like 10 bazillion friends each. And both of them were like, oh, that's happened to me. Someone just woke up one day and like didn't like me anymore and decided we weren't friends anymore and tried to get me to not hang out with them for like no reason. And I was like, oh, thank God. Right. But I mean, that was like less than 24 hours. I felt amazing freedom. And also how cool that on our coins it says, to thine own self be true. And I didn't have to rely on like, well, I'm going to drink if I don't do what my sponsor says. What my sponsor said was great advice. It wasn't right for me at that time. I'd already been through the process. I mean, by the time my sponsor wrote me this, it was like 5 days later, I was done. you know, like it had been buried and never, not, I don't want to say like it can never be dug up again and just, screw my friend and all this. No, it's just, I am open to whatever, but, I had to let it go. If it boomerangs back to me in some other form or some other time, cool. But if it doesn't, it's okay. It is truly okay. And the beauty of it is, it's like legit. It is legit healing to the point where I'm like, oh my gosh, like I don't even have to pretend and manifest this into being. Like this just is. And it's because I know why. It's because I've made deposits toward being this kind of person for the past decade and a half. I'm not saying it didn't hurt in the moment, and I'm not saying this is going to happen every time, but it happened this time, and I'll take it. And that is one of the absolute gifts of sobriety. It's just the magic of turning your life and your will over to a higher power. It's just such a gift. So I'm grateful today, and I know that by me sharing this story, there will be some kind of a ripple effect that will affect somebody else going through this. A tale of two friendships. One size does not fit all. It just doesn't. But we have tools to use to help us along this odyssey that we call life, right? And so with that, I want to say thank you for listening. Be kind, rewind. Thank you for the honor of your time. Take what you like and leave the rest behind.
Thank you so much for listening to Eternally Amy, a mum of eight's journey from jail to joy. Amy Liz Harrison is a best-selling author, speaker, 12-step coach, meditation teacher, and recovery advocate. To find out more, please visit amylizharrison.com. You can keep up with Amy on all platforms by following @AmyLizHarrison. Please subscribe and review this podcast. It means so much to us if you do.